Joyce, nimekutumia.
Okay. All right, I'm about to share.
Okay. Are we live? I'm saying live on Facebook. Oh, okay.
I'm about to share. Correctly.
Hey, Kirinya. Kirinya,
Yeah.
I suggest you don't play it. It's okay. Don't play it.
We don't play it, eh? We leave it, eh?
Yeah, it's still scratching. Just leave it.
Okay, Sasa. No worries.
Yeah. So we are almost up.
You're almost up.
Okay, team, are we ready to go live? It's 1 minute to.
James, Judy, Kirinya.
Especially
Yes.
yeah, it's 1
I'm
minute.
here.
Yes, we can.
Let's have the videos on. Okay. Kirinya, you ready?
Yes, I am.
The video.
Okay, I'm turning on my video.
All right. 3, 2, 1, and we go live. We're live.
So very warm welcome to all our participants today. Welcome to our webinar. My name is Kirinya Kithenji, and I direct the business strategy practice at Wild International. And I'll be one of your panelists today. So APA Business Club has partnered with Wild to bring you this webinar. And we are quite excited about this partnership. So shortly, I'll be introducing our panelists and also provide an outline program for this webinar. But as we begin, let me just share some house rules, just a couple of them. So for our participants, especially, if you have any questions for any of the panelists, please raise your hand, and I'll unmute your mic. The icons for raising your hand should be at the bottom of your screen. And then secondly, I would also request that we wait until the panelists conclude their presentations. And then you can ask the questions when you're ready. And then better still, actually, I would request that you post your questions on the Q&A tab. That will be at the bottom of your screen, and our panelists will respond to them in due course. So I'd like to inform you also that we are broadcasting on Facebook Live, so feel free to invite your friends to join us for this webinar. Also, we are recording this webinar and we'll post that on the APA Facebook and YouTube channels later. So we'll also be taking a few polls in the course of the program and would invite you to participate and join us. So without further ado, I can see we have some 38 participants. So I'll take this opportunity to give just a few of you the opportunity to talk about tell us who you are, where you're watching this webinar from, what your business is, and your expectations for the webinar. So I don't know who would like to go first. You just need to raise your hand and I'll give you that opportunity. So tell us who you are, where you're watching this webinar from, your business, and your expectations for the webinar. Who would like to go first? You just need to raise your hand and I'll see that and unmute you, then we can have a chat. Okay, I can see a hand up. That will be Vimal Chada. Okay, so go ahead, Vimal. I'll unmute your mic. Karibu sana, and then Cleopas will chat up with us in the next few minutes. So let's start off with Vimal. Vimal, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Vimal. How are you doing today?
Fine. Good to meet you all on this webinar.
Yes.
And learn something new and how we can fight COVID-19.
Very well.
And offer good services. Very
well. Asante sana. So where are you calling from, Vimal?
Embu.
You're calling from all the way from Embu, and thank you for joining us this morning. Asante sana. Very well. Thank you, Vimal. Let's go to Cleopas. Your hand is up. Tell us where you're watching this webinar from, what your business is, and your expectations.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you today?
My name is fine. My name is Cleophas Agwanda.
Yes.
I'm actually watching this from Kisumu City.
Very well.
I reside in Nairobi. I work with IMAX Africa Limited.
Yes.
As marketing executive IMAX Africa.
Okay, very well.
So I'm looking forward to a good talk from new people, and I can learn one or two things. Thank you.
Very well. Thank you very much, Cleopas. What does IMAX Africa do? What are your main products or services? And who are your target markets?
Okay, IMAX Africa is mainly it's known for movie. It's a movie theater.
Yes.
But it's broad because we deal with a lot of things. We do events.
Yes.
People don't know is we do event a lot of events. When it comes to Koroga Fest, we collaborate with the companies. We work with so many other companies, radio stations. So we do a lot of events. We do a lot of corporate events. We have good venues. We have foyers for hosting other people. You know.
Yes.
So it entails a lot of things. Not only going to the movies and watching, it entails a lot of things. Yes.
Very well. Asante sana.
I hope to maybe one day invite you also to come and see what we do.
Yes.
And maybe a few tickets from from me, so you guys can actually enjoy one of the best screens we have in this country and East Africa at large.
Incredible.
So yeah. We are located in Diamond Plaza, Parklands, and the Panari Hotel, and also the Mama Ngina that we had a few issues with, but we are now good.
Very well. Asante sana, Cleopas. We'll definitely take you up on your offer for free tickets.
Yes, I will definitely give you guys free tickets, and you can come see, and you'll see what I'm talking about.
Very well. Asante sana. So I would, before I introduce the panelists, I think I just have one more, Emma, and then we can move for the program for the day. I'll get us on how we're going to run this webinar for the rest of the day. So Emma, karibu sana. Tell us where you're tuned in from, what your business is, and your expectations for the webinar.
My name is Emma. I'm watching from Nairobi and I work for AP Insurance.
Very well.
Yeah.
There's a bit of background noise, Emma. There's a bit of background noise. Yes. Thank you very much. But allow me to move forward with the program for the day. I'd also invite everyone to post on the chat what do you do, where you're tuned in from, what your business is, and your expectations for the webinar. So feel free to post on the chat, and you'll find the button at the bottom of your screen. So once again, karibuni sana. My name is Kirenya Kithenji. I direct the strategy practice at Wired International. So on to the program for the day. So we'll begin with introductions for the panelists for the day. And then we'll get a short message from Mr. Ashok Shah, the CEO of APA Group. And then we'll have presentations from myself and the panelists from APA, after which we'll be able to take your questions and comments. And then we'll conclude at about 11 o'clock. So allow me to start sharing to introduce our panelists for APA before I introduce Mr. Ashok Shah to give just a few opening remarks. So who are our panelists for the day? Allow me to introduce the panelists for the day. So we have Judith Juma. Judith Juma is the head of customer experience and innovation and has 10 years experience in the insurance industry. So welcome, Judy. Nice to have you on board. Okay. And then we have James Jaggi. James Jaggi is a business development manager and has over 7 years of experience in the insurance industry. Karibu sana, James. Nice to have you on board today. Very well. So let me hand over to Mr. Ashok Shah to make his opening remarks. Karibu sana, Mr. Ashok Shah.
Thank you, Kirenya. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Coronavirus has taken the world reeling from its devastating effects. Everyone is affected. Small and medium-sized businesses throughout the nation have been forced to come to terms with this new reality. The combination of staff illness, forced closures, supply chain disruptions, and most of all, in many cases, a total reduction of business. At APA Apollo Group, we understand the effects of COVID-19. As your important partner, we should continue offering you valuable support to help you navigate the current economic conditions. Today's webinar is titled Emerging from the Storm, Tips by APA on How to Come Out Stronger, is an important contribution that we'd like to make. As an organization that protects you through all our different companies, we protect your assets, we protect your wealth, we protect your lives, we provide medical services. So the protection that we give you is very important for us. And so we would like to want to walk you with you through this journey of recovery. Most businesses have taken a hit, while some few lucky ones are thriving in all these. How do you press on and come out stronger as a business? From today's webinar, we will talk to you about the challenges you may be facing and some solutions that are there for you. We hope that the next hour will be helpful to you as individuals and businesses. And we would like to thank you for joining and reach out to us at any time for support.
Thank you very much, Ashok. Asante sana. And again, to all our participants today, karibuni sana. We are so glad. We're so glad to have you in our webinar today. So I'll begin my presentation, then after which I will hand over to our team from APA, our partners at APA. And then after that, we'll take your questions and answers. So just remember, if you have, your questions and comments rather. So just remember, if you have a question, feel free to post it on the Q&A tab that will be at the bottom of your screen, and our panelists will respond to that later after we are done with our presentations. So allow me to start us off today. And share about navigating the challenges. And share about navigating the challenges of COVID-19. So, as I indicated, my name is Kirenya Kithenji, and I direct the strategy practice at WILE International. So very well. So our engagement today is pretty much about navigating the challenges of COVID-19. And this is a first in a series of many webinars that we'll be partnering with APA. So just a quick recap on the latest COVID-19 updates. I have them as at 13th of July. We can see that we've already crossed the 10,000 mark already. The numbers are rising at slightly under 200 per day. And of course, Nairobi is the hardest hit. So, but COVID-19 is also affecting different sectors in different ways. And some economic sectors were impacted immediately, such as travel and tourism, and are yet to get back on their feet. Others will be affected in due course. We are calling that delayed impact, such as medical sciences, and others will experience shocks over long periods of time, what we are calling protracted impact, and that's pretty much sectors like agriculture. So here are the sectors in general, the main sectors. You can see immediate impact. Tourism and leisure, aviation and maritime were hit really big. And of course, they remain in a state of limbo. And then if you look at the protracted impact, we have education, for instance. We had the minister announcing that the schools are going to open in January. So protracted impact. And then delayed impact, medical supply services, food and retail. So COVID is going to affect all of this. But for some reason, some sectors were hit really hard at the beginning, and others will be hit pretty much further down the road. So at the SME level, the impact is being felt around 4 areas. The first is employees in terms of layoffs and things like that. And then the second, of course, is a drop in demand for your products or services. The third is what we call stranded assets. Just for the sake of definition, what's a stranded asset? It's an equipment, most likely specialized equipment that produced income for you in the past, but is no longer able to do that because of some external change. And this external change, of course, we are talking about is COVID-19. So the point to note about stranded assets is that they can become a serious burden when they're being financed by loans. So there's a drop in demand, employees are being affected, and we have assets that are stranded in a sense, or idle at the bare minimum. The fourth is supply chain disruptions. Probably you're not able to import those spare parts for your machinery on time, or if you're an exporter, you're having to pay double, treble what you used to pay just to ship your products abroad. Maybe you're exporting fresh produce and the rest. So my question is, the point that I need to stress is the biggest challenge for SMEs remains a drop in demand. So when you talk about a drop in demand, what are we really talking about? Pretty much three things. The first thing is people are consuming less of your product or consuming less of your service. The second thing is some have decided to postpone consumption. Here, remember, we're discussing drop in demand. Some have decided to postpone consumption. It doesn't mean that they don't want to consume. They have actually made that decision to consume, but because probably of kind of circumstances that they're facing, they decided to postpone that. And then others, now this is what really affects you, it's cancellations. They decide, I am not going to consume at all in relation to your product. So what we need to ask ourselves is, what can you do to address the challenges? What can you do to address those challenges? We talked about drop in demand, we've talked about stranded assets, talked about employee issues, and of course, we've talked about supply chain disruptions. So let's talk about employees. I just have a few pointers, and these are for the less technical issues, of course. There are technical issues with employees. Would probably refer you to an expert, and I think my colleague will post our pool of experts, the link to our pool of experts in the course of this webinar. The sandbox, we call it the sandbox, and we have quite a number of experts that we work with. So be realistic. As to how many staff you can retain. Don't forget their health. This is the era of COVID-19. Don't forget their health, and consider sending them on leave. Try and be humane. You can renegotiate terms. Maybe can they work part-time, for instance. And of course, keep the goodwill. Very, very, very important to keep the goodwill. So, but be realistic as to how many staff you can retain. What about demand? I'll spend slightly more time on this. What about the drop in demand for your products? What can we do about that? We need to employ both defensive and offensive strategies. Both defensive and offensive strategies in combination, not one over the other, but in combination. So when we talk about defensive strategies, what are we trying to do? Pretty much is we're trying to conserve cash. We're trying to repurpose our business to conserve cash, either by reviewing our expenses. Yeah, we need to spend all that money. And maybe drop loss-making items or customers pretty fast. The other suggestion is that you can negotiate with people that you owe, that is your creditors, they could even be lenders, so that you pay small amounts and maybe extend the payment period. Remember, the defensive strategy is working to conserve cash. So anything that helps you to conserve cash, to keep more cash in your business. And then, of course, inventory can be a big thing. Whether you're talking about raw materials or finished goods, that can be a very big thing. So manage your inventory prudently. So those are defensive strategies in terms of sorting out demand. What about offensive strategies? Offensive strategies are pretty much working to generate cash. And here, I actually don't have any suggestions, but I have questions for you. Some 4 fundamental questions that you must be able to answer for yourself. Number 1, the first question is, what problem or issues do I really solve for my buyers? Do you really understand the value that you create for your buyers? If you've been in business for 2, 4, 5, 3 years, 1 year, 6 months, and you don't know that the value that you create for your buyers, for your customers, this probably is a very good time. What value what problems, what issues do you really solve for your buyers? Secondly, what you need to ask yourself, what obstacles are preventing existing and potential buyers from addressing those issues? What obstacles are preventing existing and potential buyers from addressing those issues? And the third is, what can you change about your current product offering and mode of delivery? 2 things, the product and how the product is delivered, product or service, of course, in order to remain relevant for both existing and potential buyers. And then finally, can you deploy your capabilities, the ones you already have as a SME owner, in other ways to address other buyer needs that you're not currently addressing. And there are spaces where you can deploy your capabilities. In other words, you're exploring new ways or new markets where your capabilities can be deployed. So that's offensive, working to generate cash, and we're dealing with the problem of demand drop. So we talked about stranded assets. What can you do about stranded assets? How else can your assets be deployed to generate revenue? That's a question. And then secondly, for instance, if you have sewing machines, can you start, and maybe you'll be making bags, can you start using those sewing machines to make face masks? So how else can your assets be deployed? The ones that are idle or stranded. So that's for stranded assets. And then finally, in terms of supply chain, we said it's another disruption that is happening. So consider suppliers who are less impacted by COVID-19. Yeah, consider those ones. And probably you should consider alternative raw materials. So what about, how should we address how should we think about post-COVID-19? First, the one thing that you should expect is increased competition from similar products, because there are more people, there are more SMEs like you who are chasing fewer buyers. So expect increased competition. So we are thinking post-COVID-19. Number two, expect the propensity of consumers to opt for alternatives to increase. When people are hard pressed, they start thinking about alternatives. Those who are taking bread start thinking, maybe I should take boiled maize instead. Yeah. Those who are taking coffee maybe think, oh, maybe I should just be taking tea because coffee is expensive. That's just an example. So expect the propensity for consumers to opt for alternatives to increase. And then price wars, definitely because of excess capacity in terms of SMEs like yours. And then big thing here, plan with reduced cash flows in mind. Work with a worst case scenario, in other words. So those are the tips that we have for post-COVID-19 survival. So these are the questions that I've just discussed. What issues do I solve for my buyers? What obstacles are we prevent them from, are preventing existing and potential buyers from addressing those issues? What can I change about my product offering? And can I deploy my capabilities in other ways? Now, why have I brought back this slide? It's because Wild has, our organization, Wild International, has a product we call Scalarizer that is actually supposed to address those, to help you figure out those 4 issues. What issues, what problem do you solve for your buyers? What obstacles are they facing? And can we create a roadmap to succeed even in this post-COVID situation? We call it Scalarizer, and we charge on it 25,000 shillings. It consists of a 1-day workshop and one session of one-on-one coaching. So we'll be posting the link. My colleague will be posting the link where you can click on, and we'll be able to get back to you if you're interested in Scalarizer. So asanteni sana. I think shortly I'll be inviting James and Judith to pull up their presentations. But before I do that, we'd like to hear your comments so far and what you've learned so far and whether it's relevant for you. Whether this, what we've discussed in the last 10 minutes or so, is relevant for you, please post that on the chat while James and Judy prepare to present to us. And then we've also posted the link if you're interested in Scalarizer as far as Wild International is concerned. We posted the link on the chat. Just click on that and we'll be able to contact you. There's a bit of a triage, and then our staff will reach out to you and we can engage beyond that. So thank you very much, James and Judith, are you ready? I think you can pull up your presentation. You can begin to share your presentation. You can begin to share your presentation, and then we can move on from there. Thank you, James. Thank you. Karibu sana. So over to you, James and Judith. I think you'll have to share the slide. You have to do the slideshow. You have to click on the slideshow. So that it fills the screen. James, are you ready? We can't hear you. We can't hear you, James. James, are you ready? We can't hear you. So maybe Judith, are you ready? Are you ready?
James, you got to unmute yourself.
I think, James, you need to unmute yourself. James?
Yes, can you hear me now? Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Karibu sana, James.
Thank you.
So you have to share your screen on, on a slideshow mode.
Sorry, having a bit of technical challenges, but let me just put it up shortly.
Thank you very much. In the meantime, we have some positive reviews. It's Robert Mirori says the information is relevant. Vimal says this should continue in future and could have been done much earlier. Thank you, Vimal, for your comments. And remember to post your questions on the Q&A tab, and the panelists will be glad to answer them. And if you're interested in Scalarizer, we've provided a link there. Please just go ahead and click on it. We have a triage happening. So James, are you ready to move on? So you're on mute now, so you need to unmute yourself.
Yeah.
Okay,
Actually,
very well.
try to share my video.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm having a bit of challenges here.
Okay, okay.
Wow.
Olotieno says, due to the hard economic times, while James begins to load, most companies are cutting down on their expenditure. Insurance will often be relegated as an item of least priority. I think, James, you're ready to go, so over to you.
Yes, I am ready to go.
Okay, thank you.
So my apologies for that. Part of the technical challenges that we've been having for, during these COVID times. So I remember it was Friday on the 13th March when the case of COVID was announced in Kenya, the first case. My immediate thoughts was, so Africans can get it also. Remember initially we were of the view, probably it was not affecting Africans, but it actually happened to us. So like most Kenyans, I actually rushed to the supermarket. I bought rolls of toilet paper. Unfortunately, the Kenyan way. I could also have bought a sanitizer, but then my focus was on the toilet paper. I just went with the crowd. I think probably like a day later, sanitizer was out of stock. So I sat and in retrospect, I was thinking to myself, what 3 things have we learned from these, COVID times? And the 3 things that came to mind was fear, caution, and adaptability. Of course, fear in the sense that the panic buying, like maybe the toilet paper. We all had our fears. In terms of for a business owner, unfortunately, you get a bit anxious when it starts, and probably you start with the redundancy letters because you're not sure on how the business is going to run going forward. In terms of caution, while fear is destructive, caution is necessary. So we had all to tighten our belts, do better in terms of how we spend. And one thing that came to mind was the importance of emergency fund. That's very, very important. All of us now we realize putting money aside is actually critical. Lastly, adaptability. I think for most of us, we have had to adapt with these COVID times. It was forced on us in so many ways. So we have to adapt, survive the crisis. And I think our focus today should be on that. So once again, thank you so much for the opportunity to talk to you. My name is James Jagi, as introduced earlier. And in this session, I'm going to do it together with my colleague, Judith Juma. So just let me briefly run you through statistics in Kenya in terms of SMEs. Actually, in the world, 95% of global business is SMEs, and it accounts for about $36 trillion, which is quite impressive, meaning SMEs are the engine of the economy world over. In Kenya, SMEs contribute to about 98% of business, creating 70% of the jobs. That's about 15 million jobs. That's actually so big, because without SMEs, then people will be unemployed, and we know the ripple effect of that. So simply put, SMEs are the lifeblood of Kenya's economy. Without SMEs, we could struggle a lot. So, but unfortunately, in these COVID times, we've had SMEs have been the epicenter of coronavirus, with disrupting supply chain, as Ashok alluded to earlier, low turnover. So many things have gone wrong for SMEs. Actually, a recent report by CBK indicated that about 70% of these SMEs might go under during these tough times. So what does it mean for us? It means we have to adapt. It's inevitable we have to adapt, because the future, in some ways, it's a bit bleak. So I'm reminded by Winston Churchill, the former British Prime Minister during World War II, who famously said, "Never let the good crisis go to waste." And for us, the question is, we need to ask ourselves, are there opportunities for us now during this pandemic? And true to word, globally, we have seen some companies thriving during this crisis. We have Tesla. Tesla is becoming one of the most famous brands around the world. Tesla is barely 17 years old, but this year alone, it's more than double its net worth, its market capitalization, and became the most, most expensive car company in the world. It actually surpassed Toyota, which has been around for the last over 80 years or so. So these are guys who are trying to adapt in this new day and age, because they've known the niche for their customers, and they know what the customers want going forward. So you compare Tesla's worth is actually bigger than the four other companies. That is the Ferrari, you have your Honda, BMW, combined together. Actually, their value market capitalization is less than Tesla. That's just talking globally. Let's come home. In Kenya, we have Glovo. If there's one industry that has done well, is the distributions, whereby deliveries. Glovo, their turnover has gone up by about 30%. Most people are getting vegetables from Glovo. Those deliveries, these are companies adapting to the new challenges and actually doing better. Safaricom, we all know about the bundles. People at home working from home with the curfews, people spending more on bundles, and actually their bundles have gone up by about 70%, which is quite impressive. And these are companies, again, which are ready for this disruption. Remember Ripatex Limited? This company, I think the president gave it some life probably less than a year ago. It's actually famous for doing the president's shots. But lately what they've done, they've changed in terms of their tact, and what they're doing is actually doing face masks. And that's how they're surviving. I know even closer home, we have teachers who are actually selling masks now because they're not teaching in school. So people have to adapt. And that's at times we have to be forced to adapt. Now, the question for us is there an opportunity? Have we reflected and seen if there are any lessons learned? Are there any opportunities? And how can we leverage on tech to actually grow our businesses? Let me invite Judith to talk a bit about reflection with regards to this.
Hi, everyone. I hope you can hear me. James, please confirm. Okay, good. Thank you very much, James and Kirinya and Ashok, for what you have communicated so far. So James has talked about disruptions and the disruptions that have happened. And John Paul Otieno has asked, due to the hard economic times, most companies are cutting down on their expenditure. Insurance will often be relegated as an item of least priority. How can we reverse these scenarios as players in the industry? And you literally picked the words from my mouth. Because when we talk of disruption, we have looked at the positives. We've looked at Tesla and how they're growing during this duration. We've looked at Glovo and how they're doing well, and most distribution companies are doing well right now, delivery companies rather. We've looked at Rivatex taking advantage of the opportunity. And then comes insurance, which is the space we are playing in. And Kirinya had shown a slide earlier about how different industries were affected, and insurance is under financial services. So we were basically, I think, in the orange. So it's not red because we didn't close down, but it's in the orange. And the reason we're there is because, just like Paul has said, when there's disruption, when money is tight, most people will then put aside insurance, and keep only what is absolutely necessary. And that is what we have encountered as APA. When this happened, you find there were clients who were due for renewal. There's some people who had requested for new business. There's some people who, were just engaging us for insurance. And then when this happened, now the information you're getting is, can we put a pause on it? For the people who are due for renewal are asking, what is the absolutely necessary amount that I need to put in to keep on cover? For customers who are closing shop, the insurance isn't needed anymore because it's not relevant anymore. And so as customers were affected, it had a direct ripple effect on AP Insurance and all insurance companies really. And so looking at what John is saying about what do we do? How do you manage with that? Because with these requests, I mean, it's said in Africa, most of you know, insurance is sold, it's not bought. So we go out there, we engage customers, we try and convince them this is the reason why you need to buy the insurance. And so this thing happens and we have to work with them. And so AP Insurance as a brand, our brand promise is to ensure happiness. And we are here and we're trying to live up to that promise, but how do we ensure happiness and continue to ensure happiness at a time when we are also affected? And so that's some of the things that we were trying to look at and see, how can we still stand with our customers at this time? How can we still give value to our customers? How can we help them to ensure their happiness? And what is that really? Your happiness comes from your company, for instance. Your happiness comes from being able to pay your employees or give them good benefits. Your happiness comes from making sure your business is covered. So whatever makes you happy, we try to partner with you to make sure that it is covered. So how do we still do that at a time when you are already straining to try and meet the various needs that we have? And at this point, we have a poll. So we'd just like to know, I mean, we have over 100 people logged on, and we'd like you to take this poll. Lauren, just show the poll just now. We'd like to know, as a business, how are you affected? Yeah, what effect did COVID-19 have on your business? Because we had some people, and Ashok already talked about this, we had some people who were affected positively. We had some people affected negatively, and there's some who really, their business continued as if nothing had happened. So please vote. We'll give you about 30 seconds to vote. Please vote and let us know. Was the effect of COVID on your business positive? Was it negative, or was there no effect? Yeah, so just take a few minutes. It's quick, it's anonymous, just vote right now. You'll have about 30 seconds to do that. Lauren, after the time is up, please display the results. So the poll should be showing. We have 50 who have voted so far. If you're still there, please just select, is it positive effect on your business, not you as an individual, but on your business? Was it a positive effect? Was it a negative effect, or was there no effect? Okay, thank you very much. We have about 60 who have filled in, and we are closing now. Okay, so Lauren, please display the results. What do we have? Okay, so we have 17% of 60 who were affected positively, and we're happy to hear that. We have 78% who were affected negatively, and we have 7% who COVID has had no effect on them. So their business model continued, whatever they were offering, the demand was still there, and nothing much has changed in that regard. And so like APA, basically for us, it was mostly negative. And so there's a second question that I'd like you to fill in for me, a second poll. So based on what you have answered, if it was negative, if it was positive, or there was no effect, what have you done as an organization to try and make sure you either survive during this duration or you thrive during this duration? Sorry, just go back. Lauren, please put up the second poll. As an organization, in light of the answer that you gave us on the first poll, and we had slightly over 60 people filling in, so I'd request more people to fill in right now. In light of the effect that COVID has had on your business, what have you done to cope, to survive, or to make sure that you thrive? Especially if the effect was positive, how are you making sure that you're taking advantage of this duration that you're in, and meaning this season that we are in, to make sure that you thrive? Yeah, and you can select as many as possible. So nothing, you're just waiting out the storm and hoping COVID ends. You know, the way people say, hopefully in a few months it will be over. Have you changed distribution tactics? Maybe you used to have to deliver face-to-face. You used to have to visit your customers, especially insurance agents. And I know a number of you are on the call. You know, the physical engagement with customers really help. But now you're not able to do that. So have you changed distribution tactics? Have you let go of your staff and had to close shop for now? Have you reinvented solutions? Maybe you are offering, I don't know, one thing and you realize there's no demand for it right now because of what Kirinya said, either reduced demand or no consumption at all. Have you reinvented the solutions? So just select for me as many as possible. Have you grown your team because it's been positive? Have you grown your team to meet the demands? Or have you taken up credit to make sure that you stay afloat? Yeah. Others, what others have you done? I can see Vimal has commented, followed the Ministry of Health guidelines in terms of how you, engage with the customers that you have. So we have 37 votes so far. Please keep voting. We have a few more seconds to go. Few more seconds to go. What have you done to make sure that you take advantage? So washing hands regularly, making sure your staff are doing the same, advising them. What is happening? Okay. So you have 20 more seconds to fill in the results before we close it. What have you done? And if there's anything else you have done that is different from what we have indicated there, you can also comment on the chat box. We'd like to learn from each other. What have you done? How have you seen it working for you? We have 55 responses so far. Okay, I think we'll close in 5 seconds. Thank you very much. Laureen, please display the results. Someone has told us they've been monitoring temperature and giving out masks to clients. So 5% of you are saying nothing. You're waiting out the storm. Okay. And then we have 60% who change distribution tactics because right now, face-to-face is not allowed, okay, or it's not encouraged. And then, I mean, there was a lockdown. So if you were in one county and your customers are in another county and maybe you got locked out, you had to still find a way to distribute. Let go of staff and closed shop for now, 5%. We're very sorry to hear that. Reinvented the solutions we offer to start offering solutions that are currently more relevant. And that has the highest number. And I'm very impressed to hear that. That is 70%. You know, the thing about entrepreneurs that I learned is that many entrepreneurs are resilient. They don't get numbed by situations. They'll probably wallow for a few, but then they wake up and find different ways of either offering the same solution or then engaging and giving different solutions that are relevant to their customers. Like a number of people started making masks, you know, when they were not doing it before. Some started making sanitizers and distributing. So I'm glad that most of the people on this call also found a way to reinvent the solutions. Then we have partnership with other companies to help us adjust to the new normal. And this is a very high percentage. That's 30%. You know, just trying to see, hey, we offer this, someone else offers something different. And we've seen this with supermarkets. I mean, many supermarkets were, you know, you have to walk in, you have to shop, you have to queue and pay. So very few had any online platform where you could shop. But right now, most of the supermarkets actually enable you to go online, select the things you want and have them delivered, you know. So there's that partnership with delivery companies that we have seen. And then we have grown the team to meet the increased demands. That is good. And then taken up credit facilities to help you stay afloat. So thank you very much for participating. Laureen, you can remove the results for now. And so just looking at what you've done, even as APA, we had to wake up and say, okay, fine, our customers right now are struggling. What can we do? How can we, even as we are impacted, because as a company, we are definitely impacted, how can we still be there with our customers? How can we make sure that we continue to ensure their happiness? You know, a number will come and say, I have no money, I can't pay my premiums, and yet I know the value of insurance. What can we do? How can we partner? How can you help me? And some of the things we've done is, first of all, taking care of our staff. Your staff are the drivers of the company. So we realized we have to take care of them. So we had to put up shift systems to first make sure that the numbers are reduced, enabling people to work from home. We had to also just put sanitizers in the building, offered masks. We gave masks to our clients, and I'm seeing Vimal did the same with his company. And so we had to look at how can we engage with our staff. We offer counseling facilities because COVID is something no one has dealt with before. So there's fear. There is, you know, many people are worried what will happen if I get sick, people with pre-existing conditions. Someone asked a question about advising clients with pre-existing conditions. And we had to do that. We had to tell them, you're at a higher risk, so you need to take care of yourself and you need to make sure that you stay safe and follow all the guidelines. Something else we did is just offering digital service. I mean, we were working on designing an app for our agents and customers, and we realized at this point, agents can't go to visit their customers. So what did we do? We launched an app, and through this app, customers are able to renew their policies for themselves, and our agents are able to buy insurance for their customers online without having to go to see the customer. So that's one of the things we realized. If you have to social distance and you can't go and be with your customer, then how can we facilitate you still offering insurance to them? Then as customer experience, I'm in charge of customer experience, and we realized we had fewer customers coming in, but that doesn't mean they do not still have queries. So what we had to do is make sure our online channels were manned most of the time. We had faster response rate on online channels. So if someone goes to our Facebook, they're assisted. If you go to the website, you're able to generate a quote and pay. If you use the app, you're able to get end-to-end assistance. Any queries that you had, if you called, there was someone on the other end of the line 24/7 to make sure you were assisted. So as clients were avoiding walking in, we were able to still meet them and meet their needs. There's some who requested for installments, you know, just allow me to pay little by little, maybe over 2 months, 3 months to be able to cover, because I see the value that insurance has for me and my company. And then we offered COVID cover. I mean, COVID was declared a pandemic, so essentially insurance should not be covering it. But we said, you know what, this is something none of us saw coming. And so how can we stand with our customers to make sure that the cover is available? And lastly, one of the other things we did was we have loan facilities on some of our policies. So we engaged our customers who are struggling, and we told them you can take up a loan and pay over a certain duration of years. You know, and the interest rates are lower than the bank interest rates. So those are some of the things we tried to do. So we relooked at the service channels, relooked at distribution channels. We've not changed our products. We're not able to do that as fast as some of you have done, but it's definitely some of the things that we're trying to work on to make sure that we're still ensuring our clients' happiness. Yeah. So thank you for taking part. Thank you for filling in the poll. James will continue from there.
So the one thing that is clear from the poll is that people are actually reinventing themselves. You have to figure out how to survive these COVID times, and people are doing quite a bit to get through this. But now, I know initially we had different priorities. Now that we are here, things have changed. And for us, probably for most SMEs, the most basic thing is providing for your family. But beyond that, you know, you have to survive COVID. So how do you go about it? Some are leveraging on tech, you know, doing things differently just to get where you need to be. So for us, what we thought, one of the ways that we can support each other during this season is just going back to the basics, the bare basics in terms of how can we plan ourselves so that when there's another, you know, pandemic, we are ready for it. We went back to the most basic thing, which is the financial planning pyramid. We know things are tight, competing priorities and all that, but nonetheless, we have to prepare for the next wave if there's another wave. And so we thought, how about we go to this pyramid and just discuss how do we build it up all over again. None of the things that we wanted to focus on was protections. At the very basic, you have protection, you know, in terms of your health, in terms of your disability, God forbid, your emergency funds. Move to the next level. Once you are comfortable that you're well protected, you move to savings, put some money aside for future. And lastly, if you actually have something extra remaining, you can actually invest it. So on protection, I'll let Judy quickly talk to us about it.
Okay. So on ESMAS, you've asked a question in the Q&A chat, and it's what I was going to address on this slide. So you've asked about payment of treatment for clients who get COVID, our clients who get COVID. And what we have done is, that is one of the things we have made sure to cover our clients on, like I mentioned earlier. So we have had clients, we offer health insurance, and we have some of our clients who then got COVID. And because of that, they engaged us, they called us, and we were able to just guide them through the process, what they need to do once they were in hospital. And here we follow the government directive, of testing. And then once it's confirmed, are you either getting treatment from home or from the hospital? And we worked with them and we did pay the bills. So basically being able, because sometimes it's also so immediately you get sick, there's the psychological, where what will happen to me? Will I survive this? Am I one of the people who will die, or will I be able to get through this? And then there's obviously the bills. There's the bills for testing, admission where it is done, and we've covered all the treatments for our clients who've been affected and had to go through treatment. Some were not too bad, so they were able to go back home. But even when they do go back home, we work with them. So we've offered counseling facilities and services just to make sure, even as you're going through the treatment, you are taken care of psychologically. We work with you and we just try to advise on what things you can do to make sure you recover as fast as possible. So that has been done on ESMAS, to answer your question and just to inform everyone. Yes, we are covering COVID and working with the government according to the guidelines that they have given. Something else, so I've already mentioned the counseling services that we are offering, and this is whether you are affected or not, because even just the fear itself can drive you to being numb and not knowing what to do. Some of the clients that we have, some SME clients that we have, and we have a product specially tailored for SMEs. So some of the SME clients that we've had, we engage with them, we've done trainings, we've done just health talks to make sure they know what to do and how to take care of themselves and how to try and avoid as much as possible catching COVID. One of the other things we have done is and I'm sure most of you have had this, hospitals became empty. Before you'd go either to casualty or for consultation, and you find there's a long line. And you're waiting for hours before you're able to be served. And so one of the things we noticed is many people are not going to hospital. Even those that are supposed to be going to hospital were avoiding hospital because they felt if I go to hospital, I might meet with someone who has COVID and then I end up getting COVID. So one of the things we did is telemedicine. And we partnered with Sasa Doctor, where as our client, you can call them, you explain what symptoms you have, what you're feeling, and then they will advise you on the way forward. So either they can prescribe medicine based on what you have explained, or if it's something that needs to be confirmed or checked further, then they can guide you on what to do if you absolutely have to go to hospital. But one of the things we did, again, in terms of addressing fear, is making sure if you're not able to go to hospital, if you're afraid of going to hospital, you still manage to get service through the phone. Something else we did is a number of people, and I remember when we mentioned this to one client, they said, how will they treat me on phone? I'm used to someone feeling and touching and being able to make me open my mouth and see my throat. And that came from a few customers because they felt on phone, the way sometimes you go to hospital and you're asked to explain how you feel and you forget some of the symptoms that you had, or you're asked, do you have a fever and you're not sure, you start touching your head. So some clients just requested, I still prefer the face-to-face, but I'm still afraid of going to hospital. So one of the other things we have done, which we are rolling out, I think this week or next week, is called TIBA, where basically a doctor comes to your home. So if you prefer the ones where someone has to touch you, someone has to see you, someone has to, feel what you're explaining, then that will be happening. And we will have these doctors coming there to our clients' homes and checking on you and then prescribing the relevant treatment. So what we have seen basically around the health area is just trying to stand with our clients as much as possible and meet you where you're at based on the fear that you have, but also the counseling, which will try to just make sure psychologically you're prepared. James?
Thank you, Judy. So in addition to what Judy is saying, what you're trying to do as a company is actually meet your needs. Meet your needs in the sense that we know these are tough times and we know you need sort of, short-term solutions to the issues that you might be going through. So what we've done, we've structured a cover, a very simple cover. This cover is for SMEs specifically. So God forbid something happens to, the breadwinner of the family, then there's something that is given to, the beneficiaries. And let me just give you an example on this. For a premium of, let's say, 4,000 shillings per annum, that's per annum, not per month, the family, including the beneficiary actually, get a benefit of about 1 million shillings. So God forbid, probably something happens to you and then you are disabled, APO will pay out 1 million shillings. If, let's say you are ill, you get up to half of that amount, that is 50% of the amount. So our thoughts are, for just 4,000 shillings, as much as there's so many competing priorities right now, you can set aside some money so that in case of anything during the year, actually your beneficiaries can be safeguarded. Let's just multiply that a little bit further. Let's say about 5 times that. For 20,000 shillings, you get about 5 million worth of cover. And we think in the short term, it's not a solution to the end, but it can help actually in the short term. Based on experiences from most of our clients and what feedback they've given us, one of the key areas that this cover helps is actually with regards to some sort of inheritance. So, life is life and things happen. And at times you are, you're working towards building your SME, your business to make things better, to grow it. Then something happens to you and probably have a bit of loan which needs to be paid off. So this cover can come in and actually cater for those. I know there are somewhat, dark eventualities, but that's the reality of life. So this is just one area which can safeguard you, and actually even beyond the benefit itself, you get peace of mind knowing if something happens to you, at least your business or even your family will be taken care of. Beyond protection, we can talk about savings, because once you feel protected, you actually get the courage to put some money aside. And savings, usually the key focus area is on retirement savings. So how do you put money aside for your retirement? Statistics in Kenya are very grim in terms of retirement savings. Unfortunately, we have up to, most of us are not saving for this retirement. Actually, the funny thing about this is one of the statistics that says 39% consider their children as part of the retirement package. Imagine that, just pause on that for a minute. So for you, you won't put money aside now, and your children will take care of you, when you retire. But the reality is right now, it's very hard, because even them, you have children living in the cities, for example, high cost of living. So even for them, they are barely making ends meet. So if you're relying on your children, sorry, but that will not suffice. So you need to be very conscious. You need to be very clear on how you want to retire. Do you want to retire, anxious, or do you want to retire happy? And what we've been trying to do is also structure something that can help you on that end. We have a solution which essentially gives you guarantees. You put your money aside, it's invested, and you get minimum guarantees, meaning you can't lose any money. We know during this year of COVID, we've had so many markets, stocks going down. So many investments have been going on the negative trajectory. But with these solutions, it actually guarantees you return. And actually, on average, we've done about 10% investment return. But just to give it a bit more context so that it makes more sense, let's assume today you're 30 years old and you decide today, after this engagement, that you want to put some money aside. If you put around 1,000 shillings per month for the next 30 years, assuming you're going to retire at 60, at the end of it all, you're going to have made about 2.2 million shillings. Just to realize how important this is, 2.2 million shillings will give you about 22,000 shillings per month when you retire. So from a savings of 1,000 shillings per month, it multiplies 20 times over to give you about 2.2 million shillings. I think as much as I know we're struggling with finances during this season, I think that's something you can actually deliberately put aside to help you and have a safe retirement. Let's try increasing that tenfold to 10,000 shillings. From a 10,000 shillings savings per month, you're going to get about 22 million shillings when you retire. That's about 220,000 shillings per month from a savings of 10,000 shillings per month. So what we're saying is there's so many avenues that you can actually safeguard your retirement. You can safeguard even your savings, and you don't have to put much. The idea about this is just being deliberate, being consistent, and it's not about the size of the funds, it's about how consistently you put it aside. And at the end of it all, you're actually going to be better off. So even as we struggle with so many things in terms of our business not doing so well right now, we need to be careful that we don't forget this other need that you're going to have, which we're deferring for now, and we're going to have it in future. Judy?
So looking at investments, immediately when the first case was announced, I think then the same day or the next day, the NSC, was affected significantly. And so investments were really affected. Stocks, values of stocks went down, and there was just a rush and people were panicking, understandably. And so one of the things that we were looking at was, there's money market funds, for instance, and many customers were asking, will my money be wiped out? Will I lose all the money that I have saved? But one of the things we look at is just protection of the customers' funds. And currently we know, even with the prevailing economic environment, the money market funds, the equity funds are doing relatively well. And so, for instance, on the image, you can see the money market fund is currently offering about 8.8%. And this is a vehicle where there's principal protection, and it's basically a safe place where you can park your money, for use on a rainy day. And while it is there, instead of keeping it in an account, while it is in the money market fund, it is earning money for you. In addition to that, we have the equity funds, with the stocks affected going down. It's not only say buy low and then sell when it is high. So this is the best time to actually invest in that. And I know when James was mentioning priorities, what do you want to use your money on? What do you want to, you have salaries to pay, you have, maybe things you need to import. Your cash is strained right now. If possible, it doesn't have to be right now, but keep this in mind. If possible, always keep aside money for a rainy day. And the best way to do this is then in a fund that works for you. I remember there's a book I was reading about the richest man in Babylon, and it was saying, anytime you have increased income, your expenses will rise to meet that income. So you'll always find a way to spend it. Always find something you need to buy or something you need to do or more people to hire. But what I'll encourage you, even as we are wrapping up, is anytime you get increased income, consider putting part of that income aside. Because now when such things happen, you will end up having a buffer. And if you have any income right now, especially if things are positive for you right now, you're not sure how long this will last. It might remain forever or it might change. Whatever happens, make sure you buffer yourself and put some money aside. And we're available to advise you on that. Any questions that you might have or any guidance that you might need. So when we speak of, James, just on the next slide, when we speak of customer experience and trying to bring everything together, I think Irinya already spoke to this. You have your employees. How have you empowered them to serve your customers? If you've changed distribution channels, have you made sure that your customers and that your employees know how to serve customers on these new channels? When you look at the customers that you're serving, and this again, I'm just belaboring the point. When you look at the customers you're serving, have you remained in their face? Have you remained giving them value? Even as you're going through the challenges that you're going through, how are you remaining there for your customers? How are you empowering your employees to deliver value? How are you adapting to the new models that you have to use? I mean, we have to go digital right now on many things. How are your social media channels? When clients come there to make queries, and sometimes I go through different Facebook pages just to see how companies are responding. Are queries being made and then you take 2 days, 3 days to respond? Are you posting items for sale and not putting price? That's a very common Kenyan thing. What are you doing? How are you serving your customers and how are you remaining relevant to your customers? How can you keep engaging your customers as much as possible, even as you're going through what you're going through? So we'll be wrapping up there. We're seeing a lot of questions being asked on COVID treatment, on whether WIBA covers COVID. So we'll go into a Q&A session for a few minutes. I think we'll take it back to Kirinya for now. But even as we just wrap up, basically, we are here to work with you, to help you through the decisions you have to make. If you're cash strained right now and you still need to pay for your insurance, or you want the options available, please talk to us. We'll always be available to work with you. So I'll take it back to Kirinya for now. I think he'll coordinate the Q&A session.
Thank you very much, Judith and James. Asante sana. Your session was very, very informative. And just judging by the responses that we're receiving on the chats, it was also so positive. So allow me at this time to make 2 simple announcements. First, there are quite a number of Q&A questions. Most of them are directed towards APA. And I think what we can do is wrap it up at this point and then remain online for the next maybe 10 minutes as we respond to all those questions. So please don't go away. There are quite a number of informative responses that we received from the APA team. And of course, I can see some of the questions are also directed at WELF, so we'll take some time to respond to that. But for now, allow me to invite Grace Nganga to give her closing remarks. So just a very quick introduction about Grace Nganga. Grace is the head of corporate communications at APA Group, and she's a seasoned professional in communication and marketing with over 10 years experience. So over to you, Grace, to give the closing remarks.
Thank you, Kirinya, and thank you, Judy and James Njage, for an amazing and very engaging discussion on the way forward. This is unprecedented. I know that we all think individually that we are going through this alone, but we have seen even governments of super nations struggling to see what is the way forward. So the fact that we've all come together, all 125 of us, to discuss the way forward is an amazing thing for us. And specifically, I would like to thank the WILD team for coming together with the ideas of doing this webinar together with the marketing team and the team that's behind the scenes, to just show to our clients that when we talk about ensuring your happiness, we know that your happiness is not necessarily on your wealth and a property at the moment, but your overall well-being. And as a brand, we pride ourselves in the fact that we believe that we not only concentrate on our area of our category, but also we go beyond our category. So thank you to Kirinya and the team, Judith and James, the team that's behind the scenes to make sure that this webinar has gone on successfully. And to reiterate what has been said, this crisis might look like doom and gloom, but we know we will come out of it very strong. We will do business differently. And even how we deal with you, our customers, will be a very different way. And I think so far, as Judy has mentioned, we have shown that we are able to change within times. And for you, our customers, we hope that should you have any queries, such as what we are seeing on the screen, you'll call us, you'll reach us on our website, our social media pages, and we will be there. And where we cannot answer, we will get specialists. So thank you very much, and thank you everyone for joining.
Asante sana. So at this time, we'll allow our attendees to leave at their leisure. But before you leave, please listen out to the responses to these questions that are presented here. I don't know who should go first. Is it Judith or James? Is treatment for COVID covered under APA WIBA policies as per government statement?
I'll just take that up quickly. About the WIBA policy is usually for occupational sort of events when something happens during occupation. So by the nature of that cover, COVID is not part of it, because it's specific to if something happens to you while you're working. So COVID is not covered under it. I'll then pick up another question that I've seen there about the umbrella group life. Again, for the umbrella group life for the SMEs, that is does not have WIBA as one of the as part of it. Sorry, as it does not have COVID covered under it. But for other life policies, we actually have COVID as part and parcel under that cover.
Very well.
Then there's another question that I've seen in terms of eligibility.
Yes.
So for these umbrella group life cover, the minimum and maximum ages at entry is 18 years, meaning you can actually buy that cover when you're 18 years and up to 70 years. So that's within that 18 to 70 years, you are eligible to get that cover.
Okay, very well. So there's a question there from Nipul. How should you prove or disprove that it was picked up at the workplace? So I don't know. I'm not sure what Nipul meant. Maybe Nipul, you can clarify that on the chat. So then we have, I don't know whether there are other questions that are left out for APA in particular. Is the cover available to all, or is it subject to age restrictions? Have you responded to that, Jackie, James? He's already responded to that. So Eric Jugona has a question. What would you advise us who our businesses were affected on the way forward to get back our businesses on their feet? Well, good question, Eric. And let me see, what would the APA team suggest before we weigh in on our 1 or 2 ideas? Although it's primarily a business question, for instance. How do I survive? How do I move on?
I think what I can say from what I've seen, I know the government tried to throw in a bit of stimulus for the SMEs.
Yes.
But in terms of tax rebates, the VAT reductions, but what I've seen with most SMEs, they're like, this is not a priority for them, the tax bit. Because for them, what they have to worry about, paying your rent, paying your salaries. So I think the biggest reprieve has been, especially from the landlords, in terms of rent reduction. That has been very important. For us as a business, and Judy had alluded to earlier, we've been working through, restructuring. If you have a policy, and of course, it's a struggle to meet the premiums, we structure with you and just see how it fits, the amount of money you have, the limited amount of money that you have right now.
Very well. Anyone else would like to join from the team?
Can I just come in there?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Ashok. Please come in and weigh in on this one.
I'll look at 2 questions.
Yeah.
One is Nichols about how do we prove where COVID was picked up. It's very difficult. The government has contact tracing policy. And when you follow up the contact tracing policy, you will then perhaps have a rough idea as to where it was picked up. And so that's something that we have to rely on the government agencies. It's not that we can say it was picked up at workplace or picked up outside. So, but what normally will happen is when you do contact tracing, you will certainly have a good idea where the person picked it up. That's number one. When it comes to Peter Macharia, I think there are different ways of looking at how you can survive. Banks also are supporting. Banks are supporting people, their account holders. And also making sure that they can get loan, holidays on their loan repayments. And I know that as insurance companies, it would be difficult for us to support because we don't have an arrangement to provide finance. But there is something that a lot of us have. We have a life policy. If you have a life policy, you can go to your insurance company and take a loan against that. And you can use that loan to expand your businesses and the opportunities that you have. But we would like to warn you, don't take that loan if you are not sure that you are going to be able to use that money properly. If you are not able to use that money properly, don't borrow, because then you are creating a liability for yourself. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ashok. Asante sana.
I think I'd also like to chime in a bit.
Yeah.
So there's a question on money market, but before I answer the money market, on the questions you had asked about trying to survive and trying to thrive, I think I had alluded to it earlier, and even when I was asking the questions, just trying to see what people have done to try and survive and thrive. A few had said they've closed shop, but there's some who've said they've even changed the business that they're doing to try and do something that is more relevant right now. And I'm trying to think of people who maybe own entertainment, sports clubs and what have you. They can't open and they've not yet been given permission to open. And so because of that, you can just sit if possible. So you're finding a number of them rethinking what else they can offer, what else is relevant. Some of you on social media, so there was a post going around about people with Prados and Mercedes and V8s packed with the boots open. They're selling eggs, they're selling vegetables, they're just trying to make do with what they can right now. So maybe I'd advise look at what you're offering, and Kirinya had also spoken to this. We'll be sharing the slides, but what you're offering, what value are you giving your customers? How else can you deliver that value? And if it's something that is not needed right now, then is there a way you can start on something else that then will be relevant in this duration? So just how do you make sure you're still delivering value to the customers that you have? Sometimes it's about survival, and sometimes it's just about identifying something else you can do that will help you thrive. To answer the money market question, sorry, Kirinya, before you ask, it's not an insurance, this is an investment. And so it's not a policy. Basically, there's a fund that you will open. You just need to fill in a certain form, and you open with 10,000 shillings. That's the minimum to open, but subsequent top-ups, which are not compulsory, but if you want to top up, you can top up a minimum of 3,000 at any given time. And the good thing with the money market fund, it's literally like your bank account where you keep money aside, and then anytime you want to withdraw within 2 to 3 days, you have the money. But it earns interest daily, it's accrued monthly, we send you statements every month, so you're able to track how your investment is growing. And currently we're giving an average return of about 8.86%. So you can access the money anytime, there's no penalties, you can invest any amount you want, but minimum of 10,000. So if you want more information, I think we'll put our contact details, and you can, I'll just send our contact details right now. You can get in touch and I'll be able to guide you through the process. It's very simple. Thank you, Kirinya.
Thanks a lot, Judy. 2 more questions as we wrap up. So 1 minute for each question. Your retirement savings plan is for the youth. What about very old people like me who are retiring soon? That's one. And then the second question is, how are you managing TIBA with a big number of APA clients?
Okay, I can take the first question, then Judy will take the second one. But even before I take the first question, I need to make a quick clarification with regards to COVID-19 and the life cover. For the umbrella group life, actually COVID-19 is covered because it's a life cover. But for the WIBA policies, which is more focused on occupational illness, then that's where the cover does not apply. So back to, I think it's a question from Eric Maina. I wish to confirm under the umbrella policy, COVID-19 is covered. On the question from Priscilla with regards to saving at age 60, saving is ultimately about you as a person and how you want to retire. So you can start saving at whatever age. So what I would advise for people who probably have advanced age, so to speak, is we can sit down with you and structure something that makes sense for you in terms of how much you can put in vis-a-vis what you want to get when you retire. So yes, the answer is yes. For even people who are 60 years old, you can start saving now. And depending on your goal in terms of retirement, how much you want to have when you retire, then we can actually advise you on how much you can put now. Judy?
How are you managing with TIBA? Are you managing TIBA with a big number?
Yeah, so TIBA has not yet gone live. It's going live in a few days. So we will be communicating it to our customers. But what we will do is we will be engaging with the customers and then guiding in terms of when the doctor will go. So with the high number of customers, we'll try and monitor and adjust according to that. We already have a panel of doctors that we are working with. And then as the numbers increase, so we can schedule, unless it's an emergency, we can schedule and say, okay, fine, you'll be seen this day, you'll be seen on this other day. But then if we notice that the queries are significantly more, which means a change in models, right? Where people now prefer having doctors go to them as opposed to going to a hospital, then we will adjust accordingly. But we're starting with a certain panel. We see the uptake, and then we will make decisions as we go along. If it means engaging more of the doctors on our panel, or just try and coordinate it in a different way, we will be making those decisions as we go along.
Thank you very much, APA team, Ashok, Grace, Judy, James. Asanteni sana. I think we are coming to the close of this webinar. And to our attendees, thank you very much for being our guest today. I hope you've picked up quite a number of tips from the business side, and also how you can benefit from your partner, APA Insurance, APA Group. So allow me to wrap it up at this particular juncture. And thank you all for your participation, for your questions, and for your comments. We hope to meet you again in the not too distant future, maybe with another webinar like this. So from all of us at Wild International and on behalf of APA, our big partners, our good partners. We want to thank you all for attending this webinar. And I think at 11:20, we'll go for a hard stop and see you next time. Asanteni sana.